My name's Denise Schmitz. I feel like I'm really loud, am I? No. Nobody likes the sound of their own voice. Okay, so I'm Denise Schmitz. I am with Newman Munson Architects. We are a firm out of Iowa, which is not Ohio and not Idaho, in the heartland. And we started our CX journey about 10 years ago. And so we've had the privilege of presenting here at CXPS several times. We like to just kind of, I feel like this is a really great environment to just share, not an expert, but just to share kind of where we are in our journey. And so that is what I'm doing today. I think before we get started though, I'd like a good sense of who is here. So am I talking to engineers? Am I talking to legal? So I know there's some IT folks here. Raise your hand if you're IT. Oh, okay. Welcome. Okay. Oh, nice. Legal, do we have anybody here from legal? Engineering? Mostly engineers. Okay, great. Okay, so we're cousins, right? Architects, engineers, we're cousins. All right, so there we are on the map. So our journey, as I mentioned, started 10 years ago. We started partnering with Client Savvy, got CFT. I was joking last night with folks that when we sent our first baseline out, we were super cocky about it. We were committed to CX, but we also knew that we were really okay, and we were not. That feedback that we got back showed that we needed some improvement, so that was a good thing. We then partnered with CX pilots to kind of help us learn how to do this. So that was a year-long engagement. And then we discovered this book. Awesome. You're the second person I've met today that actually has read that book. I was going to co-present with somebody from this organization, and so there are free books over there if you guys want it. We'll be referencing this throughout the presentation. It's called They Ask, You Answer, and for us it was just pivotal to help us get kind of outside of our own heads and be more CX focused. We then partnered with a firm called Impact that we're still in contractual agreements with today, which has adopted They Ask, You Answer. They've just adopted it entirely and do sales and marketing training. So real quick, we had a lot of success as a firm. We'd made a push probably about 15 years ago to really up our design game and really became regional design leaders. Shortly after that, we said, okay, but what about the client? And so from there, we've evolved to really having CX and EX kind of be the bookends of our organization. Sorry if I'm standing in your way. So that has been very successful. We have CX teams, design excellence teams, EX teams. I happen to serve on both CX and EX, which is really great. I think it's very good.
Question. You have quality assurance in the center. Is quality assurance only sort of physical and production quality assurance, or are they now redefining quality as the overall customer experience?
It pertains mainly to documentation. Engineers in the room will understand. So the buildable materials that we are putting out to get projects made. So CX really covers what you're suggesting, our CX team. This is us. We are not a large firm, so we're only about 45 people, and we take on some initiatives that usually larger firms will take on, but we like to change, we like to improve. Our business model is based on seller doers. We have no BD, and that will be important as we get through the rest of the presentation here. We've never been a real salesy firm because we've relied for probably 40 of our 45 years, just with referrals and reference work, which is a great problem to have. But since part of our mission has been to really be more intentional about the work that we do, who we're doing it with, so that we're finding folks that have, common values, and we can have greater impact with them. So our history of just, taking kind of what comes in the door is not going to cut it anymore. And we hope to expand geographically as well. Most of our work is in Iowa, and hopefully expand beyond that radius. Some real quick context in our industry. I don't know if engineers here can relate to this, but what we do is pretty technical. And for architects, people will work with an architect maybe once in their life. Because it's usually, let me say this differently. It's usually the same people that are working with architects. So maybe from a facilities standpoint, from an institutional, but most people rarely will work with an architect. They may be on a board where they intersect with an architect, and it's very technical, very confusing, lots of jargon. So there's a lot of room for CX to not only improve but differentiate. So regarding the website, this is what this is all about, right? This is a quick snapshot of our old website. If it would be possible to take a website and put it in your backyard and set it on fire, I would have done that. But I did it, virtually. Like many architect firms, the websites are very curated. They're very, minimalistic. There's this whole attitude that, people should just get it. It's all about the work. They should be able to see what we're doing and just understand. These are literal things that I've heard my people say before. Of course, that's not how it works. So it's basically, a portfolio, and that's about it. Real quick, I want to ask, because I'm just curious, how many of you all, if you've ever been involved in marketing, your website, whatever, look to your competitors for examples? Yeah, isn't that the stupidest thing in the world? So we also struggled with that. So it's like, well, so-and-so, their website looks like this. We should have a page like that. It's completely contrary. It's like, why would we want to look the same? But there definitely is this sameness in the world of architecture. And so stepping outside of that is, that is, it's a big risk. So here's a little close-up of our old website. We did have a blog, but our blog was writing about all the wrong things. And part of that, which we'll get into with this book that I mentioned, part of that is just an inability to sort of get outside of our own heads, right? To see things from a new perspective. I've heard this phrase that it's hard to read the label when you're inside the jar. So you have to get outside of that perspective to be able to relate to your customers. Also, the curse of knowledge. Have you guys heard about that? It's hard to be aware of what folks don't know when we do this every single day. So this was a challenge for us. And so we came across this book by accident. Again, they're over there on the table if you'd like to take one. First of all, buyers are, as we know this from real estate, we know this from buying technology online, like everything that we buy, we're researching ahead of time, we're reading reviews, and it's no different with professional services. So folks are well through the buyer's funnel before they reach out to us. So that's why our website is so important. And we have to create content that they're looking for to want to educate themselves. Again, in our case, very technical, not very available information. So we read this book. We're like, yes, we're all in. We got a book group together with our office. 65% of people read the book and bought in. And one of the things it says is you have to hire a content journalist. So as a firm of 45 folks, that's a big step to add one more person that's just dedicated to that. But we did it. Then he started writing, and we're like, okay, that we feel like we're doing this right, but we're not sure. So we ended up hiring this firm that I mentioned, Impact, to help us with many things, including sales training, all sorts of stuff. So our old website was just a WordPress thing living out all by itself. We had a sort of CRM, but not really, and they certainly were not connected in any way. Our sales pipeline was anemic, I would say, and knowing that we were in this point where we wanted to pivot and become much more intentional about our business development, we knew we needed a more robust CRM. So we knew we were committed to the content. We knew we needed that CRM. We desperately needed sales training. And frankly, again, seller doers, I had to sell folks on the idea of sales training. We know that we're selling every day, right? Even my architects are selling every single day ideas and trying to get people to buy in. But it was a hard sell to get them to actually see that this training would be helpful for BD, but also for what we do every day. And then I refer to our website as our crappy website. So part of our engagement with Impact was to help them train us and design a new website. So here's what our goals were. We wanted that website to help us differentiate. We wanted it to help educate our buyers and build trust, creating content that makes them a more confident client, able to make decisions better and quicker and more confidently, and possibly, John and I have talked about this, possibly be in a place where they're willing to take more risks because they feel more confident in what the process is and what it involves. Again, since we are seller doers, being able to have this website that they could use as a tool to help them in their process. And then, of course, attracting those clients that have a common mission, and doing that through, SEO. And then hopefully, there is I forgot to mention, in our industry, there's a belief that if you're an architectural firm, you are either a good design firm or you are a firm that has good client relations. It's just this. It's not a client perception. It's just what our industry thinks. So it's like, oh well, the firms that are good at design, wear that hat and as their point of pride. But of course, the others wear the and they kind of poo-poo each other, right? Like you have the design, but not the client service, and vice versa. So we're hoping we've always said, why not both? Why can't we both have good design and good client experience? So we're kind of trying to be the underdog of our industry also and disprove that model. So back to the calendar again. So we started engaging with Impact to do lots of stuff. In the beginning, we started HubSpot training. They were like, we need to get your CRM up and going so we can start capturing data from your existing website. Turns out they were completely incompatible. So we're like, okay, break on that. We need to start designing the website, and we'll come back to the HubSpot training afterwards. So in the process, we had our written journalist. We ended up hiring a video content production person. So we went from a 2-person marketing staff to 4 people, and we're just kind of doing this because we trust the process and they're telling us to do it, but it seemed pretty risky, but it's worked out great. So on to UX. Sorry, this image got a little bit fuzzy. When you think about UX, I think this image is accurate. People are going to go where they want to go, right? And we can only hope in the context of our site that people are, still staying on our site. But chances are that they are just going to leave. If they don't get it, if they can't understand, if they can't find what they want, they may put a little extra effort in, but probably not. The psychology of the brain, our psychology and biology tells us to burn as few calories as possible. And so, because we're made to survive. And so that's why people check out. It's not because we don't have pretty enough pictures, or it's not because, our competitor, whatever, it's just basic maneuverability. So these are direct quotes from before our new website that people on my team have uttered, which is, now they understand, utterly ridiculous. But, it's that sort of, the engineers in the room are probably laughing because architects have a reputation. But yeah, if they can't figure out our website, do we really want to work with them? It's like, that's insane. Also, oops. Sorry, some words disappeared. The other quote was, they should just see it and get it. They should just see it, which I have architects that still say that to this day. This UX stuff is fine, but really they should just see it and get it. They should understand. So creating that clear path for UX. Here's our best practices. Every page matters, so making that work on every page. Having calls to action throughout the page, so this is so important, so that people can either opt in. So let's say they're thinking, okay, this is what I've read so far is good. I want to continue my journey. Let's go a little deeper. You need to give them the option to kind of do a deep dive and maybe go directly to like a meet with us or something. Like these guys are great. I want to talk to them. Or maybe there's kind of a softer commitment, which might be downloading a guide or some premium content. Again, clarity in all the messaging. Some examples I would give is, so we do mainly commercial work. We don't do much residential. It has to be a pretty special residential project. Because architecture is so complicated and people need architecture stamps to, do additions to their homes or whatever, depending on where you live, we get calls every single week from someone who wants to know if we can stamp their drawings. Can you stamp our drawings? I want to do a mother-in-law apartment in my basement. These just are not within our wheelhouse, which is okay, but we need to let those folks know right away, right? So in addition, what I'm trying to say is, in addition to creating content that lets people know that they're in the right place, we are very intentional about making sure that people know when they're not in the right place. So we have a blog post, for example, that says, can architects stamp your drawings? And it says no, and here's why. That's the title of the blog piece. Similarly, who are the best residential architects in Iowa? And we do not list ourselves on that list because we don't want that. But we want to give people a direction. We want to answer their questions so they have some resources. So regarding SEO, I think people can get into rabbit holes about this, but we just try to keep it really simple. So one of the best things for SEO is to just write content that people want. So how do we know that? We'll get into that in a little bit. This book from They Ask You Answer the title says it all, right? So I know we have some folks in the room that have read that book. The title says it all. So when we have brainstorming sessions to kind of decide what is the content that needs to be created, I start off by asking, what questions have you had lately? What has been a pain point for your client this week? What is a main point of confusion? What are the questions that you have to answer over and over again that drive you crazy because people don't seem to get it? It's not their fault for asking the question, you know what I mean? The onus is on us to provide that info. So creating that really thorough, educational, unbiased content and using keyword research to support that is hugely important for driving traffic to your site. We use a couple of different methods to measure that. We're not beholden to these methods, but we do use Google and SEMrush And it does help us from time to time to pivot. I was talking earlier with Benji about sometimes it's easy to create content where you sort of go to what we call level 2 content, and you skip the really basic stuff. And as a consumer, you need to provide that basic question so we can continue letting them go down the path. Every page is user-friendly. Obviously, these things are not rocket science, but we'll get into some anatomy of some pages here in a moment. And every page is optimized. And just another pitch for content. Why even create the content if people can't find it, right? So that optimization is important, but it's not difficult, I wouldn't say. So here's our new website. We're going to zoom in here really quick. It's weird showing a website in a non-live form, but this seemed the most reliable method. So one of the things you'll see is our navigation, and most architecture firms, the thing that appears first is projects. It's all about the projects. People want to see our projects. We know that people really want to know about services. What do you even do? Like, what do you do for me? Projects is there, and you'll see that there's a tab about pricing. All the time, we get questions. I'm guessing all of us get questions about pricing, and oftentimes the answer is, well, it depends, right? That doesn't mean you can't answer that question, right? What does it depend upon? What are the pros and cons of, not to exceed, or a percentage, or whatever approach you might take? So there's content that is created within there for that. We have primary and secondary calls to action. So the meet with us, you'll see, that's for those folks who are like, yeah, I like what I've seen. I want to meet with them. And then the second one is a get the guide. So we have a guide about the process that they can get. We used Donald Miller's Story Brand book to develop our own story brand for our homepage. So you can see that our story brand is starting there. Design process is something that we know people get a lot of questions about, so that made it to the homepage, of course, and we kind of tell that in as simplistic of a way as we can. And then here's that download for that guide, for the process guide. And then at the very bottom of the page, it's important that people always have a place to go. You never want people to hit a dead end on their site, or on your site. So at the bottom, we have links here down to our learning center, our blog, where people can go to learn more. And then, of course, another call to action at the very bottom of the page. So we just jumped over here to the pricing page really quickly so you can see what that looks like. Again, call to actions are there if people, are ready to move forward. We've got a video that we've created to kind of answer these questions in addition to a written blog post. And then our learning center itself, just a quick snapshot. This is where all our 3 pieces of written content per week, 2 video content pieces a week, this is where they go. And it's searchable and also filterable. So you can, if you want to see every piece that we've written about process, or if you want to see every piece that we've written about, the delivery methods, how you can deliver a project, you can find all those. And then let's not forget, as we're producing these videos, of course, we're putting them up on our YouTube page. And so that's just a kind of a bonus place to leverage. YouTube is Google, and so, we need to do what Google wants us to do. And so here's some analytics. So this is comparing, this is just in the past month. We report every month at our monthly staff meetings what's going on with our website, which is important. These people, again, we're seller doers. So the people that my marketing team is relying on to be the subject matter experts for these pieces that we're creating, it's important that they see, how this is getting used to continue the process. So you can see just over the month of April compared to last month, incremental increases, which is great. Over the course of a year, though, this is what we've seen from last January. So when we started on this journey, they would show us all kinds of charts and graphs about what to expect. And I was kind of like, yeah. And this is one of them. This is that arc, that exact arc that they said after X number of months, you're going to start to see your visitors just jump off the page. And is exactly what's happened. Is it because we have some special bag of tricks? No, we're just being thoughtful and open and educational, trying to be that trusted partner. Are we trying to go viral? Let's face it, nobody's going to go viral over architectural jargon. Traffic. So this just shows, to me, when I see that such a large percentage, I think it's 80% of our traffic is from organic stuff. That means that people are searching these exact words, and we're ranking on the first page for these items, and so that's why that's happening. A bit about keywords. We're constantly analyzing keywords to just kind of see where we are and what's ranking now and how we may need to pivot. Sometimes we go back and you have to edit existing content that's already been posted to kind of match it up better with keywords. Luckily, that's not my job, that's Tyler's job. And then just a quick note about blog posts. Sometimes the things that you create that you think are the most, the least sexy, most uninteresting topic is the one that ranks the highest month after month after month, years in a row. And this pros and cons of the 5 delivery methods. So, are you bidding your project? Is it a bid build, design bid build, construction manager, all that stuff? There's a lot of confusion around that. And this is over a year we have been getting these kind of results on this single blog. Yeah. So that gives you a sense of what we're publishing. And then we also track guides. So we have, guides to kind of sustainability, kind of big picture PDFs. These things are essentially all these tiny blog posts that we've put together that get compiled. It's not quite that simple, but to make a guide. So it becomes, so you're, feeding this content is feeding the multi-purposes. This is just a quick peek into our HubSpot. We're the people who had no CRM. We had a very poor way of tracking leads and those sort of things in the past. This is such a blurred look at our deals board. And then I just wanted to talk about this real quick. So we have been talking all to this point about basically how we pull people into our site, right? How we're pulling people into our site. But our website also serves as a really important tool in terms of being able to push information out. So for example, let's say we have a client that's come in and they've already signed a contract with us. So they're already all the way through the sales funnel and we're in contract. But they have no idea what to expect from that first kickoff meeting, or they have no idea what. So that's a blog piece that people can search and find. It's also a piece that we can send to them ahead of the kickoff meeting, right? And they can distribute it to everybody else on the team. So it's in that case, it's not developing any business, right? But it is making a much more informed client, a proactively informed client. So you don't get out of the kickoff meeting when it's done, and then there's the meeting after the meeting because they didn't understand, what to expect. John?
Just curious, in that getting ready for the kickoff meeting, are you pretty much in their face about here are some of your responsibilities when you come to that meeting and here's,
That's exactly right. And even to the point where it's like, here's who should be at the kickoff meeting. Pardon me? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to repeat the question for recording purposes. So John's question was, how are we, ask it again.
Are you in their face on your responsibility?
Yes. So what are we communicating to them that is needed for the kickoff meeting? So yes, we're telling them what to expect from the kickoff meeting. We're telling them who should be at that meeting, those sorts of things. In our work, you got to have the right people in the room, or if you don't get the right person in the room until 6 months later, then you're like retroactively designing everything to, because the IT person never showed up, or whatever, because the superintendent thought they had it covered and they knew everything that the IT person, they could represent the IT person. So by pushing this content out, we're creating a more informed buyer, a more confident buyer. They're more empowered. We believe, I said this earlier, that when clients are confident like this, they're willing to take more risks. So let's say there's a mechanical system that they have not used before. That might be something that they'll be like, okay, like I've seen, you've explained this to me so well through content and whatnot. I feel confident in using that, or materials, whatnot. Doing this, especially in the business development phase, helps you assure that you have alignment or that you don't have alignment. I always say a quick no is better than a slow no, right? Or even a slow yes. We want to know who's viable, do we have alignment, and give them permission to opt out when they also recognize that it's not a good fit. Here's another question for you guys. How many of you have dedicated BD folks, that are, okay. I've only worked with a dedicated BD person for a bit, but do you ever find that they're bringing in projects or clients where it's just like, nobody wants to work on this, or these people do not share our values? That can happen. And so being able to make sure that everybody's comfortable with, the match is important. And just, Ryan touched on this before, right? Given the economic circumstances, there's a lot of anxieties out there. So educating folks so that they know that we are their guide. That's the Donald Miller story brand thing, right? We're not the hero, we're the guide. Reducing that anxiety is great. And, similar to the example of the kickoff meeting, we're setting the example for every single engagement, every single part of the project. Whether the project's about to go out to bid and they're not sure how that works or what that looks like, we can push a piece of content to them so they know, what to expect. They know what the risks are. They know what to do if the bids come in high. They know what to do if the bids come in really low. We can provide them with all that information. And you can imagine if you're the facility manager or the superintendent or whatever of your organization, for you to, be knowledgeable and show up as a leader yourself is a really good thing. So just a final quote on that. Integrating content into the sales process will shorten your sales time, right? Because you're getting understanding quicker, and increase closing rates. That's what the book claims. I don't know that we've personally tracked that yet. But. So just to wrap up, I know this was titled as a, CX meets UX. Spent a lot more time on the CX portion of it, right? Because getting inside our clients' heads and answering those questions is important. The UX is not as magical. I hope that's not what you were looking for here, but it's really more about common sense and just creating a clear path on your website for your visitors. In educating, we become that trusted voice. We become that perhaps the premier trusted voice in your industry. That importance of, especially for us, making sure that we have that alignment so that every project that we're working on is, this is directly related to EX. If we're bringing in projects that don't represent our mission, aren't any fun to work on, the client is a jerk, whatever the case is, that's, and in our industry, we know that's years, that's like 2 or 3 years of horrid relationships. So that alignment is very important. Win more projects with less effort. We are, right now, I left town to come to this event with putting in a quals package for a $1.2 billion project. So our CX approach to that submittal, this is for a public institution, so unfortunately they're required to go through the kind of the competitive process for services. But their CX stuff is woven through that. We journey mapped, we empathy mapped that. We journey mapped the project, we empathy mapped the clients. Multiple clients actually are part of this project. So, what's my point? So the effort spent up front training yourself to use CX terminology and just be in that way, right? It's not an application, it's who we are. And then ultimately, doing more of the work that we want to do, back to that EX thing, but also, of course, matching our mission, doing the work that can have the greatest impact, in the time that we're here. So that's all I have. I know it's a lot. Time for questions.
So obviously the goal of any marketing effort is to get actual clients out of it. Have you been able to track, since we've done this, we've increased our clients on our website, or have you been able to track this actual dollar of revenue to the fact that you're actually now getting the ask you answer stuff?
No. I wouldn't say so yet. That's pretty squishy. I believe it is. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to repeat the question. I'm not a very good student. Question was, can you track it? Like, what's the revenue? What's trackable about this success? It's a little more squishy. I will say we won a project with a client. So you want to talk about ultimate alignment. This project just wrapped up. They're about to have their open house in a couple weeks. It's a client that does, it's a nonprofit that does global human, where are my words today? They do climate change. They have 3 major mission points. They fight climate change. They do, they're trying to end nuclear proliferation, and they are working to end mass atrocities and violence. They do this globally around the world. They're located on the Mississippi River in Iowa. Because their mission is so strong and so much aligned with ours, we're able to, use our CX tactics. I'm not sure how much our website helped in this case to get this project, and it's a living building, which is, the most sustainable project that can be built. That has been a pure joy from every aspect to work with them. To know that we're supporting that important mission, is wonderful. To know that we are also, putting this living building in the Midwest is a really great thing too. So, long answer to that question. I would say the thing we've seen probably the most is the opt-out, which is, from my perspective, is delightful. So those people know that they are not in the right place. It is really good. Other questions? Yeah.
So what information are y'all translating from your website to your CRM?
So the question was, what information are you transferring from your website to the CRM? It's a two-way street. So we can see who's visiting, and particularly if they're downloading content, we can see who it is that's doing that, and then we follow up. When they opt to meet with us, obviously we have a process in place to connect with them. We can see like what people are most interested in. So that slide I showed about the blog pieces, it's insight. It's a bit of reading tea leaves. And frankly, when we were done with our engagement on the website design, and incidentally, they designed it so that we are completely able to update everything on our own. We don't need any outside sources to help us with that. As that engagement was ending, it was like, but how do we read the tea leaves? Like that's the big question, and it's tricky. But you can see trends. You can see what people want. You can provide more of what people want. You can see what else is trending that we're not ranking for, and what is missing in our, kind of repertoire that we need to produce that will help kind of fill in those gaps. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so under downloads, you're required for them to enter in
Yep.
their information. They can't just download.
No. Yeah, for the guides, and for them, obviously with the Meet with Us, they have to do that as well. So we started out with just one guide, and now we have more and more guides that'll be available throughout different parts of the site. Sure.
So we're here talking about client experience, but how has your UX journey affected your recruiting as a professional services firm?
Mm-hmm. So the question is, we've talked about CX, but how is EX affected through our website? We're just in the infancy of this, but everything in TIA that they, proactively answer the questions applies. So we've done that a little bit on our career page, but not as much as we want to. So being bold and being, it's just like, right, 3 pieces a week, we got to manage all that. But being able to and it's a little bit trickier, right? If you think about pricing from the standpoint of a employee or a recruit, we're probably not going to be as bold about that on our site but our employee handbook, we intend to put on our website, which includes all of the not only benefits but also kind of commitments to our employees, a day in the life. So we go to career fairs, right? So I'm constantly asking people who are attending those, what are the questions that you're getting? Because we need to create content around that. Yeah, it does make sense. It's not rocket science.
I know you're just kind of starting your website, but how much thought or what is your plan as far as like website maintenance and who and when and all that kind of good stuff?
Website maintenance, that's the question. And it's a good question, because all this content that we create, right, at some point it's going to maybe need to be tweaked, or we have to go back in and add a hyperlink to, another article to kind of cross-sell among. Luckily, it's my writer, my journalist that stays on top of that, and he's great. And, there's sometimes, when we first started out, there's probably several, maybe 3 or 4 pieces that we actually rewrote. Because when we first started doing it, we're kind of babies and we didn't hit the mark. So every once in a while, one of those pieces that appears in our 3 pieces per week might be a rewrite because he's just not happy with that. So, finding that content journalist is really important. I feel like we hit the gold mine. He owns it. We want him to own that. Every once in a while, when we feel like we're getting close to maybe a content drought, we'll have a brainstorm session where we bring like SMEs in from the firm and brainstorm more ideas. And then it's totally up to him, Tyler, to schedule the interviews, schedule the publish date, schedule the review dates, and just feed that. But along with that comes revisions. That's That's the main part of our site that needs the most maintenance. Project updates and things like that, we have someone else in marketing that handles those sorts of things. That's a slower, it's a longer lead time. Yeah.
So how did you get the buy-in from your team members to become the SMEs? When they're designers in their own project, they have a project deadline. Do they really want to give up their time? That's what.
Yeah, how do you get your SMEs to participate? For us, went back to this big buy-in that we did in the beginning. We need to, and it's based in the book. I will say, a couple of other people who have read the book can comment as well. That book is not so much about professional services. So you really have to read that and extrapolate how you can make that work in a professional services world. But it's all in there. And one of the things that they emphasize is getting that buy-in early. We have talked to folks who have also gone through this process who maybe have a marketing person that really thinks that this should be done, but nobody else is bought in. And, they end up hiring a content journalist who ends up having to be let go because there's no support for it. So for us, like our culture, we're smaller, I understand, but we're very, everybody's all in. So when we say, we're going to do this, here's this book, everybody establish a common language, a common understanding, here's the expectations, and Tyler makes it really easy, the content journalist. We brainstorm what the topics are, what is the question that's being asked, what do we need to, how can we address that, who's the best SME? So we go through every week and assign, use these people, and it hasn't been a problem for us. I will say we have some stars. We have some star performers that we prefer to use, that come prepared and do a really great job. And then we have others that aren't quite as reliable. Yes?
I'd like to chime in on that. So a couple of ideas. If you don't have buy-in yet, a simple, easy thing to implement, especially if you're responsible for the website or any front-facing, prospect-facing piece, is to add an ask campaign on your website. So what's the number one question you have about a design build project? And then create a form which tracks all of those questions because it'll create momentum, and then you're responding directly to what the market is asking. So not only do you capture additional leads and email addresses, but you're tracking what people are actually asking. 2, when you need the individual SME in order to draft the content, in a previous life, what I did was say, when you get a client question, just forward me the email with your response. And I'll track all of that in a database, and you don't have to rewrite anything, you don't have to do anything, and I'll organize it all. So I would say, go through your emails, forward me anything, you're getting the same questions all the time, and I think the SMEs identified that it would save them time, because then they're like, actually I'm answering this question all the time, this could leverage my time moving forward, and everybody wants more time. And the third idea that I would offer or add is to make sure that you're attaching your request for engagement from your internal team relative to switching your approach is to leverage other initiatives that your internal teams are used to seeing. So if you have practice meetings that are monthly, if you have an internal dashboard, if you have an internal newsletter, attach it on there so they're continuously seeing it, like it's a simple, what questions are you being asked? So if you attach to pieces they're already accustomed to seeing and used to responding to, that's a great place to start to get buy-in and create momentum and traction.
We also find that just during meetings that aren't marketing meetings, aren't related to anything, frequently I'll be, sitting in and someone will say, that sounds like that should be a piece of content. So it's part of it is retraining brains to kind of think in that way. It's getting the SMEs on board has been, our content writer's job is to make it as easy as possible. So there's maybe a 30-minute interview. He comes prepared with questions, sends them to them in advance. So they're prepared to respond, and then once the article is written, they proof it, and that's it. So it's not it's the best possible way. I think in the beginning of this book, it talks about how, everybody's responsible for content. And then, frankly, as I was reading it, I was like, that's what we've been trying to do, and it's not working. And so at the end, they're like, actually, you might want to consider hiring a full-time content writer.
And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to hijack the talk, but there's also, if anybody here listens to the Marketing Book podcast by Douglas Burdett, something like that, that's where I first learned about the book. So it's like a half an hour, 40-minute podcast in which he interviews authors of their books. And Marcus Sheridan, that's how I heard about the book, is because he does an interview and it summarizes it. So if you don't have time to read a whole book, or you want to get bought in first, listen to that podcast and then go through the book on how to adapt the process and protocol.
Yeah. The book calls out, again, grab one. I'm not getting any, there's nothing in this for me. The guy who was supposed to be here presenting with me just sent the books instead. So, yeah, thanks, Guy. They call out there's kind of the big five, and the big five are the topics that people are most afraid to talk about. So pricing is one of those. So you should always make sure you are addressing those big five, and then they give, additional topical sort of filters that you can pull content through. Yeah.
You went over your homepage and some of the sections. Would it be possible to quickly look at those slides again? I thought the layout was really important, because in web design, deciding what goes on the homepage in what order is such a crucial component, and I really enjoyed the way that you created them. So
Absolutely. So we're going to revisit my little wonky screenshots of our website. Okay, so for us, having that big visual splash was important. This is a compromise. It's a way we can get the visual splash. This placeholder is, can hold still photography or videography. So as our videographer gets a little more savvy, we'll start incorporating more of that. Again, story brand, if you're not familiar with that, this is all according to Donald Miller's story brand. So making the complex simple, making it easy to understand. Let me tell you, these call to action buttons were a big source of discussion, because it felt too salesy. That's what and P.S. no other architecture firm is doing that. But we're not trying. No, guess who's never going to hire us? An architect. So prepare for that, I guess, is my point. Those primary and secondary CTAs are just really important, giving your visitor choice.
Playing devil's advocate, why is the print so small across the top? I would, which doesn't make sense to make it larger. What was the theory?
I know it. Let me tell you. We went through, architects, they're designers, so they wanted to design this website. So it was a bit of an arm wrestling match between the architects and our web designer. But she held her guns. She's like, no. So they are, I don't know if they just look really bad here because of the projector, but they meet the UX guidelines. So for us, knowing that the process is a lot, going through and spelling that out, according to StoryBrand, they say you got to do it in 3 steps. You can only do it in 3 steps. So simplifying the entire process into 3 steps. This is our homepage asset. Download. And then I didn't get the whole footer down here, but there's our whole secondary navigation, another call to action. So you don't want to get to that bottom of the page and have it be a dead end.
Do you collect information on how people find you in terms of from SEO versus somebody referred me to you?
Yeah, we do. So the question is, how do we know they come to us? I can go back to that slide. So here. So this is our summary for April, last month. So you can see that of the 6,600, 56 of those folks came from organic traffic. Direct means that somebody had a link. Somebody said, take this link and go read there. That could be from our assignment selling that we're doing, when we give links to clients to go read certain pieces of content, or it could be, somebody else sending a link. Through our social media, referral, the rest of it is kind of a pittance. But for me, championing this content creation, that organic search is huge. Coupled with, you never look at anything singularly, right? So that organic search coupled with the keywords research that we do and see how we're, in our, just frankly, our rankings. Sure. I'm not keeping track of time. How are we doing? We got 4 minutes. Okay.
Specifically in terms of your content strategy, be it the blog posts or the YouTube videos, is there any effort to do employee-facing content, like day in the life? And if so, has any of your designers, your architects, come to you by finding a piece of your content?
Okay, so kind of an EX question about recruiting. So we have, the closest we've gotten to this is have recorded bio videos of every employee. We have a culture video, which kind of is on our Teams page, so it's meant to be employee-facing. We have another culture video that's in the works that is more sort of client-facing. So
I'm just curious because with the reach of things like YouTube and the website, I'm just curious if you're using your content strategy at all to bring in recruits, and how has that worked for you?
We are definitely, I wouldn't say we've seen results. I wouldn't say we have tried to see results. So for us, February, March is like big career fair time when there's a lot of career fairs that we're going to. And so we timed our culture video to be up in time for that recruitment season. I immediately saw a lot of hits from it for that reason. Can I say that certain people have come to us because of that video? No, I can't say that. It's kind of like the old days of, when you would advertise in a magazine. Could you tell, unless you're putting a coupon in there, which of course is not something that we do, like how can you attribute that direct connection? So it can be a little squishy. But, you follow up and you ask, did you see our video? Oh, I loved your video. It's a non-subscription based thing, so we don't know exactly who's watching it. Okay, yeah. That's it. That's all I got.